Hey guys, so this video is a sequel to a video I did a couple of months ago called It's a Marathon, Not a Sprint. So in the initial video, I discussed the sort of fallacy that a lot of players, or the misconception a lot of players coming to BDO for the first time have, in that unlike other Western MMOs, BDO is not a game where you can join the game, play really hard for 3 or 4 weeks, and then reach full endgame gear and have a equal shot against anyone else in the game. That is not the type of game BDO is. However, what I didn't discuss in that video is that while BDO is not a sprint, it's a marathon, BDO's marathon is flawed in many ways, and there's a discussion that a lot of players seem to try to avoid having about the BDO Marathon. So, I suppose the main point of this video is that BDO may be similar to a marathon, but marathons have a finish line that everyone gets to cross. BDO's finish line is full pen, but this is an unachievable goal for all but the biggest outliers in the game. For the sake of this video, outliers are going to be ignored, as outliers are not reliable indicators of what is and isn't possible. You can't use outliers in statistical analysis because outliers are statistical anomalies. They are not what you want to be relying on when designing a model for the average player or even the top or lower end of players. Outliers should be ignored. So, in BDO, there is really no real end to the marathon. Having a continuous goal to work towards is not a bad thing, and in fact, it can be seen as a positive and one of the selling points of the game. The problem is that too much power is given out for completing the later parts of the marathon, and not enough power is given for running the early or even the middle parts of the marathon. So, continuing with the marathon analogy, obviously you can't expect everyone to be able to complete a marathon right away. It takes time spent training, preparing, and getting ready to run the marathon. However, this is all stuff that anyone can do. Even if someone doesn't have the money to pay for a personal trainer, a dietitian, and a perfect diet for long distance running, they can still be ready to run the marathon within a couple of months, once again ignoring outliers such as those with medical issues or the morbidly obese. In BDO, however, this is not the case. Those with cash to burn are going to instantly sprint far ahead of those without the cash to spend on more than a handful of pets and maybe some weight. It's like using steroids to run the marathon. The difference is that in the marathon, there is a finish line. The steroid users and the freaks of nature will certainly reach the finish line long before the average runner, but the average runner will catch up eventually. In BDO, there is no finish line as gear can be upgraded almost endlessly. Now this wouldn't be a problem if the longer you ran, the less benefits the game gave you for each new mile ran. If every kilometer you ran after a certain point, so for the purpose of this video, reaching soft cap will be that point, for the first time, was more for bragging rights than those that finished first, would simply be attempting to post better times, set records for the longest distance ran, and increase their own skill level. So, trying to hit 62 or 63 for bragging rights, get thousands of skill points, or increase their skill level at using their class and their character in general. But in BDO, reaching this point means that you can now run even faster as you attempt to set new records due to the fact that you can now gain even more silver, skill points, and experience in less time, allowing you to attempt gear enhancements more frequently and bid on powerful items more often than the players still stuck running the early to middle parts of the marathon, as they don't have the power, the gear, or the connections to gain silver as quickly as you do, so you can get silver more often to overcome the RNG of enhancement. The first couple of kilometers of BDO's marathon are far less impactful than the later stages, yet only a handful of players ever manage to reach these later stages. The vast majority are stuck in the middle part of the race, unable to even come close to finishing the marathon, let alone attempting to continue onwards. This has only been made worse by the renown system, adding even more impact to those later stages of the marathon, and the changes to AP scaling making the lead group almost invincible in fights against everyone else. So really, the length of the BDO Marathon is the real problem and somewhat the elephant in the room in many of these discussions on gearing up in BDO. Everyone seems to have their own idea of what a reasonable length for the marathon is, what rewards should be given to those players dedicated enough to run the entire marathon, and how impactful each kilometer ran should be. So, personally, I believe that the first half of the marathon should be the most impactful. While players that continue to run should be rewarded, the rewards should have diminishing returns the longer they run, so the more they enhance their gear. Past about 500 gear score, increases in strength should diminish drastically, not increase exponentially the way they currently do. So the problem here is really that everyone, like I just said, has their own idea of how difficult it is to gear up in Black Desert, how difficult it is to level in Black Desert, how much you should be rewarded for continuing to gear up past certain points, such as tri-boss gear or soft cap, and how much power you should gain past certain points, such as tri-boss gear and soft cap. In Black Desert, the current way it's set up is that the first couple stages, so getting to like plus 15 gear, Pri and Duo, don't reward you much at all in terms of power. They give you very small levels of power. Yes, you can, if you get to Duo, like green gear, you can style on plus 15 players, but you're still going to be wrecked and rolled by pretty much anyone that you meet in most grinding areas because Duo green gear is really weak. Even tri-boss gear feels really weak because you're still going to get one-shot by a lot of players who have better gear than you, and because of the way the gearing system works, their better gear makes them much stronger, even if they've only got on their character sheets 20, 30 more points of AP and maybe 30 or 40 more points of DP than you do. They're still going to absolutely destroy you. So a lot of players see this as a positive. They see it as rewarding players for continuing to play the game. It's a way to pretty much endlessly increase your strength, and that's something that a lot of MMOs don't offer. In fact, a lot of games don't offer that. And I can recognize that that is a very strong selling point to Black Desert. The problem that I feel with this viewpoint is, yes, being able to make infinite gains is a good thing. Being able to make infinite gains means people always have something to strive after. They always have a higher point that they can reach for. And that's really what Pearl Abyss seems to be saying that they wanted the renown system to kind of address. They wanted the renown system to kind of give soft cap players who'd stop trying to enhance all their gear a reason to keep reaching upwards and trying to improve their character and their account's overall strength level. My problem with it is the improvement is just way too much. They don't need to be creating literal gods among men in the game just because it becomes more difficult to enhance gear past a certain point. Even if it becomes more difficult, that doesn't mean that you should be rewarding them even more for completing the task. It just means that the task you completed dozens of times up till now, enhancing your gear by a single level, is starting to give diminishing rewards, which is what it should. It should be giving diminishing rewards rather than exponential rewards. But a lot of players are very happy with the fact that rewards go up proportionally really to the difficulty. Tet is not easy, and Pen is even more difficult. So for players that have achieved Tet or even Pen items, especially accessories, getting that huge increase in power from realizing even a single upgrade really kind of drives home that it was worth it, and kind of, stimulates the adrenaline. You get that upgrade, you go and style on some poor noobs or even soft cap players and feel all amazing, and that provides the impetus to make you want to upgrade your gear even further and get that feeling again and again, which would not be a problem if enhancing was easier. So really all these systems are interconnected. BDO is a marathon. It's very difficult to enhance gear in BDO. Getting your gear to the maximum enhancement level is also difficult. Getting to the highest levels in terms of experience and stuff is difficult. Highest level of PvP is difficult, and all of these are interconnected. If you want to be at the highest level of PvP, you have to have a very high level, as well as some of the best gear. If you want to have the best gear, you have to have a high level so that you can farm and grind in places that give you enough silver to be able to earn that gear. If you want to be able to grind in those places, if you want to be able to get all that gear, you have to play for a long time. So no matter what, it's all interconnected. The problem is that a lot of these connections kind of build off of each other and have almost like exponential, basically they multiply together instead of being additive. If each piece of gear was additive, it wouldn't be such a problem, because if I have 90% of your AP on my weapon, 90% of your AP on all my accessories, then I'll be 90% as strong as you. But it's not additive, it's exponential or multiplicative. If I have 90% of your AP on my weapon and 90% of your AP on my accessories, but then you get to multiply all those APs together, and so do I'll be like half as strong as you. And that's really the crux of the issue. With all these interconnected things, with all this huge BDO as a marathon, the difficulty in enhancing, the reward for successfully enhancing, and the reward for simply playing the game, but the fact that until the CAFRIS enhancement system comes out, there is no guaranteed reward for enhancement because there's no force enhancement, they've kind of created a system where it's a huge marathon, but in the later parts, even though you run 10 kilometers in a day, once you press the enhancement button, you're sent back 15 kilometers when that nice shiny tet of yours goes down to try, and then goes down to duo, and then goes down to pry, and you have no memory fragments left, and you're forced to cry because you're very sad, and BDO really hates you with RNG. Shout out to D Jules with his 300 stack. So, yes, BDO is a marathon, but we really need to address what is a reasonable length for the marathon, what is a reasonable difficulty for the marathon, and what reasonable rewards look like for the marathon past certain points. We should not be rewarding players so hugely for continuing to run the marathon past a certain point and allowing them to absolutely destroy players that have run almost as far as them but can't quite make that last little leap. But we also shouldn't be making it so difficult in the first place to run these last few kilometers, and perhaps with how difficult it is to run these last few kilometers, rewarding these players is the correct thing to do with how difficult it is. So really the discussion is complicated. There's not necessarily any one correct answer. There's no silver bullet answer that will magically fix BDO. But personally, like I said earlier, I believe that the first half to 2/3 of the marathon should be the most impactful. When you're getting to 450, 500, probably at most about 520 gear score, so you've passed tri-boss gear, you've got some tets, you've got some good accessories, that is when you should be not your strongest. You should be allowed to get stronger, but that is when diminishing returns should start to really kick in, and any enhancement past that is more for bragging rights and EPing than it is for actual power level massive increases and allowing you to style on people lower than you. 520 should be the point where you can evenly contend against most players. You have a slight disadvantage against players higher than you, but it's not the current pretty much absolute chasm that exists between 520 and 550, 560 plus that exist in the current state of the game. Anyways guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Comment below what you think of the BDO Marathon. I know my analogy got jumbled up in a few different places here, but BDO is a marathon, not a sprint, is something that's been tossed around the community a lot. Like, I was not the first one to use it in my video. That is something that is said a lot in the Reddit community and on the forums. So, weigh in on what you think of the BDO Marathon. Are the current rewards justified? Are the current power increases at later levels perfectly reasonable? Or should lower level players, lesser geared players, like around 450, should they have a much better chance than they do now against higher geared players? Or should the dedication and, quite frankly, the luck of higher geared players in succeeding in their enhancements, should that allow them to really destroy lower level players as if they're playing Dynasty Warriors, like the current situation of the game? Anyways guys, once again, thanks for watching, subscribe if you liked it, and have a good one.